I have a lot of slides. I hope I will entertain you all with a story you can relate to, and I'm looking forward to the discussion or reflections on what I will show you. Yeah, so as introduced, my name is Pavel. I like to think of myself as a creative technologist. I'm involved a lot in the field of education. Actually, what I will speak about is related to let's say a field of education in the arts. But I mainly work with bachelor students of art design, but I also like to engage in community work and, of course, with new challenging topics, using my knowledge and expertise in interactive media, uh, in projects that are let's say raising awareness also in other fields. So through digital tools or through affinity with technological development, I hope to highlight different other topics, ethical, environmental, and so forth. So let me just share my presentation, and then I can take it from there. So yes, do you see it? Great. The title of this gathering is Environmental Awareness and Digital Literacy, Participatory Artistic Experiments Based on Innovative Use of Interactive Media. A bit of a long title and subtitle. Could all be reduced perhaps to something like interactive art, climate action, again, within the educational pedagogical context, working with youth. Just to be very practical at the start, I worked this last year for, let's say, or school year, I could say, with, I conducted 5 workshops with involving 4 secondary schools. Altogether, we talk about a group of 52 children or youth, 12-year-olds, roughly, sometimes 11, 13, and from the Hague, of diverse backgrounds, relatively diverse backgrounds, from the Hague, Wassen, and Leiden, so the surrounding cities. And each workshop, or I should say, lasted. There were like 5 to 6 sessions of 2.5 hours, with access to digital technologies. So I have, so the facilities. These were the facilities we've been working with. And I will, of course, introduce you to the kids soon. But first, a bit of the goal in a nutshell. So there are 3 points that I wanted to address in this trajectory that I'm almost done with. There's an exhibition coming up next week, and of course some documentation that I also need to put together for ITAC. Thank you for supporting me in this endeavor. So the goal is to, first of all, it's something that I've been doing for years, increase digital literacy among young people. I like to call them digital natives. And at the same time, sounds complex, raise environmental awareness for potential climate action, and also in generally stimulate artistic development of that target group. Let us just reflect for a moment on these 3 topics. So first, why do we need to raise increase digital literacy of digital natives? One could ask, well, digital natives are already familiar with digital technologies. They're born in digital times. So what do we mean with literacy here? So I am of opinion that a lot of especially with young people, as much as they interact with social media, smartphone, software, internet, and so forth, often these interactions are, let's say, consumptionist it's about receiving, it's a lot about, of course, participating, but not necessarily engaging in a creative process behind these technologies, the co-creation of media. There is a lack of literacy in terms of understanding computer code or the processes behind all these amazing things we use. So in fact, of course, people who are digital immigrants, went through the process of early digital, early years of digital revolution to, I guess, take smaller steps into the digital realm, while now we have this generation that needs to do still some homework on that. Where are we at? And of course, with the speed of development, speaking again of artificial intelligence and all these things, we need to sometimes slow down, look what's in the black box. We need to understand these technologies. That's what I stand for with my work with young people. Then the second point is this raising environmental awareness for potential climate action. Well, you could again say, why combine it with the digital technologies? Exactly, maybe what we should do is leave this behind, go in the forest, at the beach, into the mountains, and go back to the analog, right? So there's also a kind of paradox in this combination of approaches or goals. But then at the same time, the other argument is, well, can we really do it? Can we fully do this? No, we are, of course, to a large extent dependent on the digital tools we use. So I rather try to keep both sometimes, somehow keep the digital and the environmental awareness together, and I hope or strive for finding a common ground. Like, can we use digital media in such a way that it also helps us reconnect paradoxically with nature? Yeah, is that possible, and how to do that? And what, again, the third point, what creativity can do in this field. So how artistry, critical mindset can help us redefine our behavior, our practices, our approach to the digital life we all share, even on this call today. So then these goals, to use a mathematical formula, what happens if it all adds 1, 2, 3? What do we get? Or is it adding, or is it maybe multiplying, which I would rather like to see. And of course, the big question, what happens? Now, this is what this presentation is about. I don't necessarily have the answer to this complex, all these complex topics in a like I don't have a essential one conclusion, but I think some of the experiments I've conducted with children will suggest maybe where we can be heading to with that. So welcome to the first group I want to introduce you to. These are the children I've been working with, one of the first groups I had, and we are here on small walk in the center of the Hague. Actually, this is the center of the Hague. I will come back to this place later on. And this is the outdoor situation. This is the indoor situation. So I just want to situate you in what I've been doing in the past months. We have the gear. We have amazing software, usually open source. This is also what I intend to do with this, is that this project or this approach can be replicated in other parts of the world, where maybe the resources are scarce and so forth. So it's also how can this be maintained in other places? But here we have access to certain technologies and explore them together during these workshops with the topic of rising sea level in mind. But not only that, because of obviously the local problem is a global problem and the global problem is a local problem. So rising sea level is a problem interconnected with other topics, and that clearly became quite soon when I started with the project. It became clear that children also bring associations and stories about and climate change that are not specifically about rising sea level, but are related to it in one way or the other. If you think about these connections. So this is during the working time. This is the break time. Also, I want to then to illustrate the behavior. The break is also digitally, how to say, there's a digital break, or I don't know how to even describe the situation, but again, this is the reality of this these kids, I guess, on a daily basis. What did I do? I've been experimenting with 3D modeling, 3D scanning, 3D printing, 3D animation, virtual reality, augmented reality, game design, creative coding, generative art, physical computing, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and so forth. Okay, so generally I thought, let's explore in each workshop different tools and come up with assignments that both encourage children to learn more about these tools and creativity you can have with them, but at the same time to address environmental topics with these technologies. I will just roll with the examples. This is, for instance, one of the first exercises we were doing, reflecting on the existence of face filters in Snapchat and TikTok and other platforms, which is often kind of an entertaining, a mask you wear. First of all, again, as the kids are often consumers of that kind of media, they don't necessarily, they can use a face filter, but might not necessarily know how to make one. So I was trying, okay, what happens if you make a mask and share it also online, or what would you do? So we were, of course, talking about nature, about climate change, about environmental issues around us, near and far, the good side, the bad side of things. And with just sketching in one session, the kids got an opportunity to tell a message. We are the world. We are right. We have we can communicate certain messages about climate change this way. It could, of course, be a poster, right, or it could be other form of art. But in this case, hey, it can be published online, shared with my friends. It can be participatory, right? In this way. This is another example where actually it's really interesting. It's not on the face, it's now something around the face which is controlling this. You have a kind of impression of the plastic soup, of maybe some kind of underwater experience of seeing trash, seeing all those things around us, being overwhelmed with that. These are, again, works of children, 11, 12-year-old. This is what they come up with and realize in just one session. Then another assignment. I'll go through a couple of assignments to get a bit of idea what I'm exploring here. This one was an assignment we took a little bit more time for. You have a view on The Hague. We were on that field just a few pictures ago. It's a center of The Hague. You can see the sea and on the horizon, and it's a very interesting place because maybe I can show you. Let's situate it. Let's go locally here. Okay, to Malieveld. Okay. Right. So, so this space, even it's in the Dutch constitution that you cannot build any permanent things on that field. It's a field, it's an open field next to the skyscrapers there, and the ministries and the government buildings. It's a space which is used for temporary events, for fairs, for manifestations, and things of that kind, events of that kind. What is from my research, I found out that this location has never been used really for a larger artistic manifestations, or that this space was not, is used for different political or commercial reasons, but not really for a work of art or an art event. So I took the children there, and yeah, a side story. Not so long ago, there was a large manifestation in The Hague, blocking all the access to the city. The farmers were protesting against the governmental measures, trying to reduce the use of fertilizers in the agricultural production. So so we were witnessing this kind of protest, and these examples were discussed with the students. So how this field is used, for what kind of purposes, and what can we do? You know, what we would do if we could do something, what we would come up with to maybe change the narrative and propose an alternative to this kind of resistance, right, of the farmers, for instance, towards. So this is, an investigation of the, how big the field is approximately like 3 football fields. It's the size, the scale of it. And, of course, it's impossible physically it's too big to create an artwork, cover the whole space. But in virtual reality and 3D graphics and 3D modeling, you can imagine, think big. So this is a sketch of one of the students who actually said, hey, it's great. It could be nice if the sea level rises, because we can be underwater enjoying the underwater life, and this can be a very beautiful experience. So also these kind of responses come, and with classes on 3D modeling development, actually this idea became, well, a kind of sketch reality, towards even, you see some, I don't know, some people resting in a shadow that is given by some underwater species. This is so, again, the good or bad side, positive and negative. I guess children like to explore either of these two ways. This is a sketch for a situation where big plastic bottles fall from the sky onto the Malieveld, this field, and are so overwhelming. It's so many of them that you start feeling, yeah, this is really too much. So it's about creating the artistic, impactful sensation of that. In this scene, the girl who came up with this idea is recording sounds of plastic and other trash to add it to her animation or to her virtual reality experience, so you can hear the sounds that are, you can really hear all this plastic falling on it as a statement on
sound
on the problem. And these sketches, these 3D models of objects, but also environment, are on the spot tested on Malieveld. So I'm situate children so they work for that space, that they create something in the center of the city. And in this case, what the girl is looking at is another project of another student, which is a concept of a computer game in which you are trying to save the planet. But in this scene, he visualized, it's too late. We lost it. We have to leave planet Earth. And on Malieveld, there is a rocket. You can, a space shuttle, right? A spaceship. You can board that ship and escape the planet Earth. And I asked him, okay, is the game finished? Because it's a very sad end of the game. We go up into the sky and higher up, and then we look back at the planet Earth as it circulates around the sun, and we see gradually, with every turn, that it's drying out, that it's hotter, right? So we reflect on that and think, yeah, how can we play this game again so that it doesn't end so badly? It's I really enjoyed, besides these sketching, teaching, all the conversations that happened along the way. They were very on the edge of combining some knowledge or sensitivity to environmental topics with creativity, imagination, experimentation, it was juggling between these different practices. This is another example of an outcome of this 3D modeling. These are electric cars, okay, that in the idea of this girl would can be decorated with environmental friendly messages and statements, so that if you drive an electric car, the electric car itself becomes becomes a poster, becomes more or less an activist medium in the urban space that shares that raises awareness and also makes people think about what they can do. So it's a rough sketch, but the idea was that on Malieveld, on this field, there would be a gathering of people that would decorate their cars like graffiti, right? They would turn their cars into electric cars into of course, a lot of questions here. We are not really sure if this is the way to go, but I'm just sharing with you what happens once you give kids the tools and the space to reflect on these topics. Now, all these scenes would be turned to a virtual reality experience, as I explained. But now I can go to the next assignment and another group, really enjoying the class, as you can see. What happened here? We were going to a kind of a small garden, urban garden space. It rains a lot in the Netherlands, and the assignment was, can we listen to water? What it means to listen to water? How can we interpret what water says when it rains, in all its appearances around us? So you actually have literally an activity. Listen to this. You have an activity of listening to the water, being open to the beauty of the water and the meaning of the water and what it tries to say. And of course, with also certain visual experiments, just very crafty, trying to make art with water or about water, interpret the shapes of the water. Okay, so this is just analog sketching phase. Someone discovered a figure like that in the water. But the assignment we were trying to, this also involved my bachelor students. I decided to also open that space to some of my students to come up with ideas for assignments. Aliona and Stefa, two students from second or third year students from graphic design department of the Royal Academy of Art were involved in this. And the idea is here to really create a secret language with water. What can water say? Just like letters communicate words, ideas, concepts. So actually these water drops or water shapes were translated into typography. So that different sounds, different appearances of water were turned into a visual typographic system in class. So I guess each of the kids made a couple, and they would be also reacting to sound as well. So you could hear also these sounds or interact with water this way.
But you see, it cracks.
Okay. So what this workshop was a lot about was observation. Yeah, how can we use different different tools, analog, digital, to observe the reality around us, and how would the sound, again, how sound can then be visualized, for instance. So how can we listen to nature and see what nature says to us? Things like that. And also, of course, in this case, in the sketching phase, this girl discovers patterns, discovers the aesthetics, the kind of generative art of nature, which is quite related to generative art in creative coding, where you can come up with a computer code that creates a kind of mathematically defined patterns. So this is also what we've been exploring, actually, by coding something together. We coded a participatory drawing platform. Each of these computers would be a drawing board, then combined into one drawing in a more or less performative participatory situation in class. So just to give you an idea,
I like it, but I don't. No.
they are. This is
right. But why do you go? Okay, you really can't resist to mess. Well, it's a kind of rain, yeah.
It's rain.
But some people need to keep on consequently making the lines to keep.
Oh.
Okay, so this was a class situation where, with code and using the program that they created, we are trying to visualize nature. This is also an attempt to be that everybody is a raindrop, you know, and then we together rain, you know, in this. But again, what you see on the right side of this video, it's actually you have an open source. You see the code was created with the kids in class. So we tried to create a code that represents or that allows us to simulate rain or to be the rain, you know, that people in this local network we created with each other can be raindrops. That's so to say. Well, so and so on and so on. I think you are getting the idea where I'm heading to. The girl on the left side is wearing also a pattern herself. She's like, she's some kind of animal too, right? So we were transforming what kids were wearing on that day into other species. What happens if you become the other? Can you become? And then that would be on the spot, photographed, simulated, drawn to this type of characters, and also animated. So, you know, I'm just showing you the outcomes of the sketching, how the analog also would influence certain artworks. And this is a work with another group that I like a lot. This is about the future of evolution. If we are dealing with climate change, okay, the animals will have to adapt to that new situation, to global warming, to plastic everywhere. So in this case, it's an imaginary evolution, yeah, of the plasticker. That's the name of the new species, kind of a frog on standing frog, who has piranha teeth, so it's able to crush the plastic and digest it, I guess, as well. Okay. Now, and again, that character becomes visualized with these types of aesthetics. You see also the gap between the sketch like that and what happens when it's digitized. But again, this is an example. What happens in just one or two classes, they had no experience with 3D modeling, no experience with this software, and then they create this. And I think there were supposed to be bottles, plastic bottles around, but it was a bit simpler to make cans that the plasticker is looking for in this space. So also it's also interesting how these ideas evolve or develop with the different media you use. Now, some other sketches look at this mountain figure that comes to life to tell us something. It becomes a character in this scenario. Again, that all would be we could experience these scenes, these animations in virtual reality. This is, I guess, some kind of flying cat looking for water in a deserted spaces. Yeah, so that's also and then I thought, okay, the kids enjoyed it so much, coming up with the characters and sketching them, that I thought they need to have some kind of takeaway from it. So with sustainable materials, we managed to 3D print these models. So this is a visit to the 3D printing lab, where actually their creations are being turned into little toys. You see that the 3D lab itself also refers to some natural patterns. So they would get instructions on how to process this. Actually, I have here with me one of these models without the support structures taken away. Yeah, you see the joy of creating new beings, and with a story, with discussion behind it on these climate change problematics. I'm slowly heading to the end. I'm almost there, because I want to leave some space for discussions, for questions, but just one more encounter to share with physical computing and AI and machine learning. So this is a visit to an electronic lab where there are a lot of electronics, and we were trying to think, what can we do with electronics to, again, be closer to nature in a, again, paradoxical way. Do we need electronics for that? Well, not really, but we can listen perhaps without, but okay, maybe we can amplify the sound of certain things in nature, right? Or we can create surveillance tools for nature against the human intervention. So, so these were the discussions we would have in such a lab, looking at all the tools and possibilities, sensors, and so on. And in this case, one interesting outcome was that, yeah, we need to be able to hear what maybe birds hear, or maybe what species can struggle with radio waves and 5G and electricity in general around us. So this is a microphone or sensor detecting electric signals, which is, again, we cannot see it, but now through the work of art, what happens in this trajectory, on the left side you see kids with headphones outdoor, listening to objects, to places, to nature, with a very sensitive microphone. Then they are processing it with audio software, and that composition they create is also turned into visuals. So eventually the invisible data or invisible phenomena around us can be visualized, so perhaps we can learn more about also the complex climate change problematics, which are maybe often not so visible, but they are also in all those, you know, parameters around us, right? So, or you can at least also reflect on the industrial sounds that also influence it. So just a preview of snapshots from these. So in short, you can have an artwork that's also representing that type of information. That the artwork is driven by invisible forces or less visible forces around us, right? Then last but not least, when we went once on a walk, I always did at least one walk in each workshop. We encountered some leftovers of the protest manifestation of Extinction Rebellion. This was trash of the protestants. It was also very interesting because it was like investigating, looking at the urban space and traces of let's say climate action. Stop subsidizing fossil fuels. This is what's written on this board. So also the observations around us were very influencing the discussions and reflections. Of course, collecting certain things that have certain beauty and could be an inspiration for an artwork. So you see also that I like this picture because you have this coexistence of the digital tool, which is also full of stones and actually, right, electronic components that are also based actually on natural resources. Now, how do we relate these resources to these resources in a workshop like that? And beautiful things happen, also serendipitous. In this boy discovered that he can wear these things on his hand, and that that nature is an inspiration for the arts. Now, and then what he can do with this? Can we 3D scan this, or can we turn it into maybe a character in a computer game? No. So again, how do we learn from nature in this aspect? Last example, AI and machine learning. There is this tool called Scribble Diffusion that allows to sketch something and prompt the system with a piece of text. So for instance, in this case, you draw a plant, or roughly a sketch of a plant, and the prompt is a plant. So you get a plant. Okay, but the nice thing or interesting thing about AI, of course, which is as much artificial intelligence than as artistic intelligence, I could say, is that it could be, for instance, in this case, the prompt is a smoke or burning forest. Okay, so following this tool, it became so, how to say, fruitful in brainstorming sessions with children, because you could have a discussion on climate change topics and at the same time sketch things. So we were reflecting, for instance, on the fashion industry, sustainable fashion, and the notion of the catwalk, green catwalk. What would it be? Now, let's ask AI, let's draw a catwalk. Okay, this is just a catwalk. This is a green catwalk. Okay, so the catwalk is outdoor. Okay, that's interesting. But also it's made of, and the scenery of the catwalk would be like this. And the models could be literally natural species that are fashionable too, right? So the kids loved it as how can we be in some partnership with AI to also visualize, illustrate, and study the paradoxes we're in. I let them animate this with another tool. Again, all could be done in one class, so it was also interesting to get to animate these creations, AI creations. In this case, you have a bear struggling on the melting ice, a kind of iconic image. Well, the girl wanted to animate it to show his struggle somehow with this tool. These are plastic worms that come to life, new beings that invade the natural habitat. So I will just unshare my screen now to have some. Hello. Yes, I'm back with you. So yeah, by this I arrived to this roller coaster ride through different experiments. Where I'm at now is how to distill from these experiments the best practices, or what were what were the most effective assignments, or what led to the most exciting results, and of course how to upscale this in the sense of could other teaching artists get involved in that? What would happen with that type of assignments in different parts of the world, right? Where there are other topics, other youth maybe, right? And then how to create, of course, impact on reaching out to other audiences with this, because now it was a study, most of it was a study internal with the, inside of the workshops. So now the next step is how this can resonate onto, of course, parents of the children, the schools, the education at large, and how also these disciplines can connect. Because usually in schools, you either go to computer science classes, or to biology, or to art. And why can't we have formats where it kind of goes together and in a balance and in a kind of interaction between these different bodies of knowledge? So this is what I preach, let's say, what I stand for. Investigating more and more. I have 100 other ideas for other assignments, but with these, I'm in a process of concluding them, exhibiting them, and trying to find a network of people who would like to join me in this endeavor. Thank you. So I don't know. This was there's now, so I think, time for questions or reflections.
You said you weren't going to be good with time. You were perfect.
Okay.
Eric, would you like to ask the question you said in the chat? Feel free, everybody, to open mics and discuss.
Sure. Pavel, there's so much rich stuff in those experiences. And you mentioned that your next step is kind of identifying key things to take away. I wondered if you had some early intuitions or ideas about the best practices you are starting to distill, to grab out of this range of experiences. Do you have early thoughts?
Yeah, well, so I really I love this the future scenarios, yeah, that are about the species, yeah, and how a climate action can how climate change can affect them. That was one of my favorite outcomes, because somehow this was easy to follow for that target group, at least, yeah. It was you know, you could be more like cartoonish about it, or more factual. Yeah, it's open to different interpretations, and it can exist in very different environments as well. So yeah, this was one of my favorite outcomes. But actually, yeah, indeed, concluding and I'd rather have a kind of publication, you know, with different assignments, and depending on the resources or the also expertise of different teachers, this could be a guidebook, a kind of cookbook, right, for these types of recipes of engaging children in a discussion on climate change. So I don't know if I want to put a weight on one specific solution. I'd rather share them all and also reflect on what worked, what didn't work, what, you know, but again, that also can differ on the target group, right? So it could be that the age, that some assignments were too difficult for that age group or too abstract for that age group. Yeah, so these reflections is something I still need to, with concluding the project, I need to go through it all again and like judge. And also based on feedback of the kids, because I also have that. Yeah.
I'll just offer one note. What jumps out to me as really so powerful are those three different perspectives that you're bringing together that you told us about right at the beginning. It's so unusual to have environmentalism, creative imagination, and tech literacy brought together in this kind of irresistible invitation. That's really powerful and unusual.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Go
I'm curious
ahead.
about these, you mentioned at the start, black boxes. And I wonder, today I reflect that digital tools, especially with the use of AI, are becoming more and more black boxes. And I guess, what's your reflections on the need to see what's inside the black boxes? Can we use something that we don't understand? Is that most useful? Is perhaps what way of knowledge versus skills, and how much does having one weight more than the other impact, perhaps? I guess, yeah, for me, I reflect is about trust, and I'm very curious about this black boxes, how much people can understand.
I personally think that digital revolution did not happen yet. We were told it did, but it was not yet revolutionary as I don't know, Gutenberg bringing literacy. It took a long time to bring that understanding to not be just reader first, but also a writer, and right, and I think there's still a long way to go for our, you know, educational systems, especially on the primary and secondary level, because, you know, that's where I think it should start on. Yeah, there's so little being done, I would say, of course, digital tools, the black boxes are omnipresent, but with a limited understanding what's really behind the scenes, what, you know, how these things work. So, but then I just wanna, what's the, I just hope that as we do that, we don't necessarily have to dedicate the time only for that, but sort of also discuss and learn other things as we become more and more digitally literate. And that's my take on this, that as these children discover actually what they play computer games, they use the apps and all of that, but now they get an idea after such a workshop, oh, actually I can also make this, it's not that difficult. And at the same time, what they do is not another a corporate or another, you know, a lot of these things we use, but it's maybe something else. It maybe they can use that knowledge to develop ideas that are about other topics that are not so mainstream but should become. So this is my my vision in a sense that when I teach them creative coding or so, I actually talk about nature, you know, like, oh yeah, let's code, let's see how the patterns and the textures can be represented in a computer code, so you understand the mathematics also that is in nature. So it's so nice because then they combine these skills and it's not so separate, and they will have an attachment, I guess, also to this. Rather, they can see also why it's good to be digitally literate. Because that is it's a way to understand the world. Also, it's one of the ways to understand the world. It's very relevant today. Yeah.
Do you think that the process of, say, automating some processes that the students are doing to create the final project, do you feel that once a technical literacy has been established with the basic tools, that then there's more mandate to kind of automate those into, say, more upskilled AI tools, so that then the kind of output could perhaps be of a professional quality, say? Do you, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's about the you mean whether these tools could whether they can advance the outcomes, that because you know, I just to explain also this presentation, I'm actually not striving so much for the end results as it's the most beautiful artwork or the most it's really about the process, and that's why a lot of these are rough sketches, and then I drop it and I go to another experiment and another, because it's also about exploring the broadness of the possibilities and kind of articulating that. So I never, yeah, it's also with the discussion, for instance, ethics of AI. Everybody wants to talk today about ethics of AI, and I'm like, sure, but there are also ethics of technology in general, of other technologies. It's so of course there are certain specific topics, but like, in fact, we just need to develop a discourse that allows us to step into different situations with a kind of similar mindset of being critical and creative at the same time. Yeah, I don't know if that answers your question. At least that's how I understood it.
Well, Paul, I actually think I can say we're all blown away by your presentation and have so much to think about and to like start processing. At least on my part, I don't know if I can call myself a digital literacy. I'm far away from being that, and now I feel like, wait, if children can do it, perhaps I can learn too. So thank you for bringing us closer to that word and letting us take a peek into all the possibilities behind it. So next, I want to be respectful of everybody's time, saying that we're close to the end, and invite everyone to join us next month. It'll be on 30 June at the same time. It'll be a Friday, not a Wednesday, to engage in an activity that allow us to work a bit more practically on what you've taught us today, Powell. Thank you so much for today.
Thank you very much.
You
For
are
your question.
wonderful. You truly are a genius.
Thank you, Pavel.
Thank you.
And for the ones on YouTube, please feel free to comment and we can answer your questions. We'll make sure to get them to Powell also so you can participate. And thank you all. Have a lovely day. And thanks you, especially to you, Powell.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, family.